How can you improve your English if you're already at an advanced or upper intermediate level? Well, I think reading books is the best way to achieve this goal. In this video, I'm going to show you the 10 best books in the English language. To get the most out of this English lesson, listen and read along with the slideshow. If you don't know a word or phrase, pause the video and look it up. After you watch the video, choose one of these books to read. I guarantee that it will help you improve your English. This list comes from the popular website Goodreads. They posted a list of the 100 best books of all time, and I chose the top 10 to show you today. It was voted on by 100 writers in 54 different countries, and it was created in 2002. Number 1. Are you ready for it? This is the best book of all time. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice is an 1813 novel of manners written by Jane Austen. Though it is mostly called a romantic novel, it is also satire. The novel follows the character development of Elizabeth Bennet, the dynamic protagonist of the book who learns about the repercussions of hasty judgments and comes to appreciate the difference between superficial goodness and actual goodness. Number 2, the second best book of all time. 1984 by George Orwell. 1984 is a dystopian social science fiction novel and cautionary tale written by English writer George Orwell. It was published on June 8, 1949 by Secker and Warburg as Orwell's 9th and final completed book in his lifetime. Thematically, it centers on the consequences of totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and repressive regimentation of people and behaviors within society. I've read that book. I like it. I haven't read Pride and Prejudice, but I have read 1984. Number 3, the third best book of all time. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Crime and Punishment focuses on the mental anguish and moral dilemmas of Rodion Raskolnikov, an impoverished ex-student in St. Petersburg, who formulates a plan to kill an unscrupulous pawnbroker for her money. Before the killing, Raskolnikov believes that with the money he could liberate himself from poverty and go on to perform great deeds. However, once it is done, he finds himself racked with confusion, paranoia, and disgust for his actions. His justifications disintegrate completely as he struggles with guilt and horror and confronts the real-world consequences of his deed. I have to say, this is my all-time favorite book. I've read this book and wow, it was just great. Number 4, fourth best book of all time. Hamlet by William Shakespeare. The tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, often shortened to Hamlet, is a tragedy written by William Shakespeare sometime between 1599 and 1601. It is Shakespeare's longest play, with 29,551 words. Can't believe someone counted the words. Set in Denmark, the play depicts Prince Hamlet and his revenge against his uncle, Claudius, who has murdered Hamlet's father in order to seize his throne and marry Hamlet's mother. I think I read this in high school, but I don't really remember it too much. 5, the fifth best book of all time. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. 100 Years of Solitude is a 1967 novel by Colombian author Gabriel Garcia Marquez that tells the multi-generational story of the Buendia family, whose patriarch, Jose Arcadio Buendia, founded the fictitious town of Macondo. The novel is often cited as one of the supreme achievements in literature. The magical realist style and thematic substance of 100 Years of Solitude established it as an important representative novel of the literary Latin American boom of the 1960s and 1970s, which was stylistically influenced by modernism, European and North American, and the Cuban vanguardia, avant-garde literary movement. Haven't read that, but I've heard great things about it. Number 6, the 6th best book of all time. Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. A complex novel in 8 parts with more than a dozen major characters, Anna Karenina is spread over more than 800 pages, depending on the translation and publisher. Typically contained in 2 volumes. Okay. It deals with themes of betrayal, faith, family, marriage, Imperial Russian society, desire, and rural versus city life. The story centers on an extramarital affair between Anna and dashing cavalry officer Count Alexei Kirillovich Vronsky that scandalizes the social circles of St. Petersburg and forces the young lovers to flee to Italy in a search for happiness. But after they return to Russia, their lives further unravel. I've read this book. It's good. It's a great book, but I think it was too long for me at the time. I was a bit younger, and I didn't absorb a lot of it. So I can't say that I have great memories of it, but it's definitely a wonderful book. I think you just really need to focus when you're reading it. Number 7, the 7th best book of all time. The Stranger by Albert Camus. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. The Stranger is a 1942 novella by French author Albert Camus. Its theme and outlook are often cited as examples of Camus' philosophy, absurdism, coupled with existentialism. Though Camus personally rejected the latter label. The title character is Morceau, an indifferent French settler in Algeria, described as a citizen of France domiciled in North Africa, a man of the Mediterranean, an homme du midi, yet one who hardly partakes in the traditional Mediterranean culture. Weeks after his mother's funeral, he kills an Arab man in French Algiers, who was involved in a conflict with one of Morceau's neighbors. Morceau is tried and sentenced to death. The story is divided into 2 parts, presenting Morceau's first-person narrative view before and after the murder, respectively. I haven't read this, but I've read Albert Camus' other work, The Myth of Sisyphus, and that's one of my favorite philosophical books. Number 8, the 8th best book of all time. The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. The Brothers Karamazov is the last novel by Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky spent nearly 2 years writing The Brothers Karamazov, which was published as a serial in the Russian Messenger from January 1879 to November 1880. Dostoevsky died less than 4 months after its publication. Set in 19th century Russia, The Brothers Karamazov is a passionate philosophical novel that enters deeply into questions of God, free will, and morality. It is a theological drama dealing with problems of faith, doubt, and reason in the context of a modernizing Russia, with a plot that revolves around the subject of patricide. Dostoevsky composed much of the novel in Staraya Russa, which inspired the main setting. It has been acclaimed as one of the supreme achievements in world literature. I would agree with that. I read this book as well, and I was just, my mind was blown. I was like, wow, it was emotional, interesting, touching, and deep. Amazing. Number 9, the 9th best book of all time. The Odyssey by Homer. The Odyssey is one of 2 major ancient Greek epic poems attributed to Homer. It is one of the oldest extant works of literature still read by contemporary audiences. As with the Iliad, the poem is divided into 24 books. It follows the Greek hero Odysseus, king of Ithaca, and his journey home after the Trojan War. After the war itself, which lasted 10 years, his journey lasted for 10 additional years, during which time he encountered many perils and all of his crewmates were killed. In his absence, Odysseus was assumed dead, and his wife Penelope and son Telemachus had to contend with a group of unruly suitors who were competing for Penelope's hand in marriage. Number 10, the 10th best book of all time. Arabian Nights. Okay, 1001 Nights is a collection of Middle Eastern folktales compiled in Arabic during the Islamic Golden Age. It is often known in English as the Arabian Nights, from the first English language edition, which rendered the title as the Arabian Nights Entertainment. The work was collected over many centuries by various authors, translators, and scholars across West, Central, and South Asia and North Africa. Some tales trace their roots back to ancient and medieval Arabic, Egyptian, Indian, Persian, and Mesopotamian folklore and literature. In particular, many tales were originally folk stories from the Abbasid and Mamluk eras. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. While others, especially the frame story, are most probably drawn from the Pahlavi Persian work Hezar Afsan, which in turn relied partly on Indian elements. So this is a collection of stories, in English called the Arabian Nights. So there we have it. These are the 10 best books of all time. How many have I read? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4. I guess I should read the other ones as well. If you had to read one of these books, which one would you choose and why? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.